You've taken a few days of rest in the village of Brosta, just on the edge of the city limits of Fellport. 4 days of on and off rain and mist, mud clinging to your boots and sandals and causing your cloaks to drag in the dirt. Whitegar's injured leg has been bothering him for the past couple chains as he is on the long, slow march of healing and recuperating. And he has spent many an evening alone in his inn room, holding congress with his books, with fitful rest each night, coupled with a strange, shadowy nightmare, a reoccurring horror that he refuses to speak of, and other thoughts plaguing him he does not wish to reveal at this time. Over these same several days here, you have found that the Ebon folk have been more and more growing in their superstition with this entity known as the Pike Lord, some local river deity. Some believe he is possibly a fairy lord that is holding court on the edge of the marsh where many of the villagers fish, which this region gets most of its food from the river Thum that flows between Brosta and Fellport at this time. We are sitting in the tavern having an afternoon drink. Today's fare is grain and more fish and the fresh produce from the fields, and a heavy grain and bran bread being served to you. Doxy and Whitegar sit comfortably in a booth, but across the dining room there is a young man of the ebon blood. He's very handsome, sits alone, having his red wine and flirting with one of the half-Fey serving women. Liam, would you describe your character for us, please?
Certainly. He is of modest height. He has close-cropped black hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He wears dark gray leather vest over top of a burnt ochre silken shirt. A small cape made from a snow leopard pelt, lined with seafoam blue, drapes over his left shoulder and is clasped to his vest by a modest brooch, shaped like crossed antlers and inlaid with small emeralds. His pants are light ashen gray, with a thick black belt with a polished silver buckle wrapping around his waist, and his boots are an oiled black leather.
Beautiful. The serving girl, who is she is 1/4 of an Umbriad. She is a long, thick, beautiful raven hair, and she's a little bit on the shorter side, but rather curvaceous. Her name is Lara, and she's been attending you for the past 11 days as you've been in Brosta, going about your business. She seems interested in you enough, but she's a bit of a mysterious sort. You're not sure if she wants you for your money or wants you. Doxy, would you describe your character for us?
Doxy sits there at the table. He has a piece of firewood drug from next to the big fireplace over to the table so he can rest his feet, which don't quite reach the ground. And most of these human-sized chairs. And he sits and polishes a pauldron that is bronze with strips of ebon reinforcing it. His beard, which when the light catches it, has a slight glimmer of copper in it, is tied back behind his head, making it look a bit odd. It also reveals his linen shirt, which is travel stained, and in some spots even has small holes, obviously from embers that have fallen against him at some point, either from a campfire or a forge fire. But the look of his face and his skin is bronzed beyond what would normally be considered for a sun. So he's known the forge quite a bit, you can tell. His rough hands might run a cloth across the metal, polishing into certain cracks with oils and such to keep the metal itself from corroding. And as he inspects the rivets and such, his green eyes have quite a bit of life in them as they dance across the area, and occasionally look up around the room to see this fellow across the way. He glances over, obviously, because he likes that cloak. He's never seen one quite like that. He has clenched in his teeth an old stem of a pipe, which currently doesn't have anything in it. But if Liam's been around a bit, when he does smoke it, it has an odd scent to it. It's not quite a tobacco, but it seems to be something else mixed in with it normally. Anyone who's asked him about that, he just says it's medicine, go away. And he's polishing, looks up to Whitegar, and he says the gear is almost completely cleaned up now, finally, from that road. How's the leg, my friend? Aching today?
Whitegar, would you describe your character for us, please?
As the camera pans over, it's you see a finger that is on the table and has taken one of the knife on the table and is like scratching a triangle into the surface of it, and he's just sort of slowly, lazily carving it into the table. As the camera pans up slowly up his arm, you see that the leather hauberk that he wears is well worn, very broken in, and is adorned with several gashes that have been riveted back together, and in some cases sewn back together. It hard to believe that he was once a noble of a clan. And as he looks up, you can see that there's sort of a frosting that's occurring around his long reddish strawberry blonde hair that you can see kind of a graying start to occur, and his hair seems to be thinner. His face has become somewhat sunken, probably due to depression or just not eating healthily and drinking more. He looks up slowly at Doxy, realizing that he was talking to him, and what the beer?
No, your leg. How's the leg today? Any better?
Oh, he kind of looks down at it. As you can see there, there's this structure, this sort of leather apparatus with metal sidings to it that he kind of half smiles, and remembering that even though he feels somewhat less of it, he appreciates what Doxy has done, and he says, the leg is suitable.
I heard it squeaking this morning when he got up. Needs a little oil again.
Yeah. I'm not... maybe we can run some laps later and see how that goes.
That'll work. Maybe this time will keep up with me. I remember once before I couldn't keep up with you. Now that if I don't watch you tend to go around in circles. He Doxy sort of smiles under his beard, attempting to joke with his friend, but it seems like he hasn't had much success recently by the look on his face. Maybe down to that tower finally. See if that fella has fish. Doxy glances over to the plate on his side, which has a small heel of bread left, the remnants of some kind of vegetables, and about a half-eaten fish. He shudders again. Fish. They can't have pork here like decent people.
At that, Whitegar is taking a sip of his drink as he looks down at the table and realizes that he didn't even touch the food on his plate, and just picks up the bread and takes a bite of it, and realizing there's this beautifully dressed young man, and it looks like he does well for himself.
I assume he does. I mean, whatever kind of fur that is, I've not seen it around here before. Looks almost like some of those the stuff those Nagaxkith occasionally make things out of.
For Liam's benefit here, are Doxy's sleeves rolled up? Do we actually see his tattoos? Okay.
Yes, he does. He does have the tattoos. Yes.
Okay. For Liam's benefit here, you would be familiar with the guild tattoos. The way guilds represent rank within this society is they get sleeve tattoos, which start from the shoulder, and then the higher rank that you are, you essentially wear your resume on your shoulder. And it always goes down to your middle knuckle on your hands. If you've become a master of these things, it's plain to see that Doxy is a very skilled smith with all his ink work.
All right.
Not quite a master yet, though. Not quite a master though. To describe the tattoos, the tattoos show you that he is proficient in working with copper, bronze, and ebon. He hasn't quite progressed beyond the ebon yet into the Fey iron and the other materials that would make him a master, but he definitely would be one that has skill. He also has a few additional tattoos in there that mark him as an engineer as well. So he's not just a basic smith, he also designs things.
All right, duly noted.
Yes, that fellow is somewhat interesting. He's what do you say, Whitegar? Should we go over there and introduce ourselves to this new fellow? It might make for some interesting conversation since the rest of our group seems to have moved on or whatnot. Doxy looks around just to make sure there's no shadows that have more substance than normal. Nope.
Yeah. Well, I get it. He kind of thinks to himself that he hasn't been much of a conversationalist as of late, and he nods. Wait, I'm ready for another one anyway. He kind of gets up and he sways a little bit before steadying himself again, and picks up his drink and then downs the rest of it and looks over at the barmaid, who is very attentive, and he kind of shakes the mug. Well, I better start walking now before you beat me there.
Oh, don't worry about it, Wygar. He stands up, takes the time to actually kneel down a little bit and examine the joint at the knee of the brace. And says, "Yep, right there." Pulls out a small bottle of oil and applies it to one point and says, "Bend your knee, bend your knee."
Yeah, and he kind of works it a little.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can kind of hear the creaking both of the muscle within and the bone,
Mm-hmm.
but also the mechanical structure that it is.
Yeah. He Doc does a couple of adjustments to it. Real quick. And says, "Yep, that should make it a little more easier to move in there for you. Take a couple steps. Let me see."
He kind of gives you a hollow laugh, and he's like, "I have been drinking." And
Oh, yeah, this should help compensate for that.
okay,
I've told you, the British folk back at home in Arborea, they wear these things. They go out on drinking benches. They can drink for days and never fall down. They can pass out and still stand up.
all right. So he kind of does a march forward for like 5 to 10 steps, and then does a pivot real quick to turn about face and to try to test it, and then crouches, and at that moment he feels his leg start to give out, and he just reaches down, and he's like, he gives him another smile, but you could probably tell that he's leaning on the chair. It wasn't necessarily the brace, though.
Doxy nods. I'll keep trying to modify it so the pain goes away.
Yeah.
So,
He walks back over and he just claps you on the shoulder.
Yes. Take a seat just for a moment. Get a bit of a rest. Doxy looks over to the barmaid, waves her over, and points at the mug, and holds a couple of copper coins, places them on the edge of the table, hopefully to entice her. And when she comes over, he'll lean over to her and say, "What do you know of the fancy fellow over there?"
He's a merchant that has been speaking with the other artisans in the village. His name is Liam. I do not know him all that well.
Do you know what he trades in by chance? Did you mention that?
I don't. I know he has not mentioned that.
Well, I looked over at White Guard and say, "We do have a few things that could possibly sell this fellow. So, we did bring a few things up from the south. What do you think?"
Sure, lead on.
And with that, Doxy gets up, makes sure that the coppers get into the barmaid's hands, fills up he gets his mug filled up, puts his stuff away, and walks briskly across the bar up to Liam's table, about 2 strides away, raises his mug and says, "Nice to meet you. I hear you're a merchant here by the name of Liam."
Liam perks up at the mention of his name and your approach. He eyes you suspiciously momentarily, making sure you don't have a hand on a weapon. Yes, I am a merchant. To what do I owe the pleasure, good sir?
Well, my name is Doxy Hard Anvil, and this is my associate here, White Guard the Natterhelm of the far land of Arborea. We've just come up from the fronts where we brought a few things up, and thought you might be interested in possibly purchasing them and moving them for us.
Ah, business. In that case, feel free to have a seat.
Okay. Doxy will motion White Guard in one of the chairs and look over toward the fireplace and walks over, grabs another log, brings it over, sits next to his chair, and hops up into it and props his feet up on it. And he said, "Yeah, we have some bits of weaponry and such we gathered from the battlefield. There's our spoils and whatnot, and bits of armor, cloth, and such. And we also have a few odds and ends we collected. We've gotten a card out in the stable at the moment, so we were thinking about taking it down to this tower by the edge of the river and see if that fella down there might be willing to buy some stuff. But you're more interested in closer."
Yes. As interesting as a trip to the tower would be, a local merchant is probably a better choice. You mentioned odds and ends. Any particular curiosities mixed in there?
Well, nothing too extravagant. I mean, I've got a couple of serving pitchers and such from a nobleman's wine cellar. Got a few baubles from some young ladies that they traded with us for various things we happen to have at the time. Nothing too nothing too crazy or exotic, if you will. I think White Guard has a gold coin, but I'm not sure if you're willing to part with it yet.
As well, he shouldn't. Why would he ever want to part with something so valuable?
He sort of winks at White Guard at that.
He's kind of leaning over on his kind of drinking and half paying attention. He's not necessarily rude. He just seems distracted or lost in thought.
Now, you mentioned you came from the front. Did you take part in fighting?
We definitely did. White Guard here is a war hero, as a matter of fact.
I figured I got that impression looking at him. Do you travel far?
Big damn heroes. Ain't we just?
We are. Our final destination is, of course, a city up there. But beyond that, I mean, it's possible White Guard maybe partaking of this pilgrimage as people go on occasionally across the oceans. But that's a bit of time away.
I see. Well, tell you what, how about the next round of drinks are on me, and I would be happy to discuss business with you.
Sounds good to us. He chugs down part of his beer, puts it on the table, and looks at the barmaid and motions her over, and he says, "You don't by chance have any pork anywhere, do you? It hasn't changed since yesterday, has it?"
She kind of looks off, thinking. She goes, "Let me check."
All right. Well, in that case, while you do, just bring the pitcher over here of that beer here. Me and my friend here will need it soon, as we'll be needing some lubrication for discussions.
She leaves momentarily, taking the pitcher, leaving it on the table, and then disappears into the kitchen a few moments later.
Okay.
All right. Well, you mentioned weapons, but the particular kind of trading I do, I'll pick some items up, transport them to another locale where I might be able to sell them for a higher price, and just keep doing that until I occasionally make a profit. From time to time, I'll buy stuff off of travelers, but I'm not really a shopkeeper, so it's not really the type of business I deal in. But you all are traveling and you look like you can handle yourself. So if you would be interested, I would be willing to travel with you for a nondescript period of time, wherein I could help you fetch the best prices possible for said items. And in exchange, you all would, make sure no harm were to come to me or my wares.
We're definitely capable of that.
Wonderful.
Matter of
Normally,
fact,
I don't particularly deal with escorts and guards, but the roads have seemed hazardous recently.
oh, they definitely are. As I said, we just came back from the front, and there's all kinds of things going on out and about, dark things, things that, well, some few years ago you wouldn't even dream of.
Yes, the things in the shadows.
Yes.
Liam sort of reaches up towards his neck and rubs his fingers over a coin hung on a necklace. But yes, I'm as worried as I am about some of those dark things.
Why the
recently-
necklace?
Oh, this?
White guard just leans forward and rudely interrupts him, like, "Why the necklace?"
Oh, well, it's kind of a silly story. It's one of the coins from one of the first sales I ever made as a official merchant.
Excellent.
So I just, keep it on hand for luck.
Oh, I understand that.
I thought that you were referencing darkness and shadow, like it had further meaning. But I mean, that's a good reason to hold on to it. I could see that.
Yes, banish the darkness and all that. But yes, I'm more interested in protection from more mortal sources.
We can definitely handle mortal sources. Matter of fact, I understand the tradition of keeping one of the first things you made and such. Doxy reaches down to his hip and unsheaths a bronze dagger that he places up on the table. It's fairly well made and very, very well worn. He says, "This is the first thing I ever made. Give me this." Points at one of the tattoos. I'm a test for that.
I see. That does explain the tattoos.
Yes, I am the smith and engineer, yes.
Then I would definitely be interested in traveling with your group.
Well, do you have a cart or a wagon?
Good question.
Probably not.
The status of my cart is part of my hesitation with traveling.
Someone stole it, huh? Yeah, I understand. Well, we happen to have a cart, so.
Wonderful. Then I think we would be able to help each other out just fine.
At least you've been able to keep your health and your good looks, as it were. Hell,
yes.
Your clothes aren't even blemished.
Yes, that...
One would think that you were courting someone.
Oh, when you're a merchant, you're always courting someone.
Yeah, that the cape you wear there. I noticed the fur, the interesting pattern of spots. Where did that come from? I've never seen something like that.
You like it? Yes, this is the latest fashion. It is made from the pelt of a prime of its life snow leopard, lined with a wonderful seafoam blue linen, and it wouldn't be the same if it wasn't paired with some lovely emeralds. It's all the rage these days.
Quite pretty, quite pretty. Yeah. I could. He starts looking around at it. Says, "I could do some interesting things with that as well. With some patterns with some bronze and brass, a bit of silver. I could create you a belt that would really stand out."
I've been needing a new belt. As much as I love this one, it definitely lacks the necessary flair that I really need.
Yeah, I had to get myself to my forges there in town, of course, to do that. But I'll tell you though, there's this thing been nagging me. You see, we left for the front, we came through here, and that dang tower wasn't there. He Doxy looks through the room towards where the tower is off in the distance, although he knows he can't see it from there. He says, I got to satisfy my curiosity before I go anywhere. I got to know what that is and why it's there.
I mean, what's there to satisfy? A tower is a tower.
Yeah, but a tower that just appears in such a short time. I mean, the craftsman in me wants to know how he did it.
Well, kudos to your engineering enthusiasm, but it gives me the heebie-jeebies personally.
Yeah. That's true, but sometimes the place that gives you the most heebie-jeebies has the most value in it, though. Imagine what kind of wonders that place might have in there for sale or for trade that you might be able to get to take somewhere else to trade.
You just had to go and try to appeal to the venture capitalist in me.
Of course. For all we know, that fellow may have actual living snow leopards there that he might send with you to be sold somewhere else. And imagine walking down the streets of Fellport with one dead one and two live ones walking about. That to me would be a shock, but hey, it'll definitely get you some attention.
Oh, yes, attention it would draw. But as much as I had been loath to approach that tower, if I'm sure you two were leading the way, I would draw some of the less necessary attention away from the humble merchant behind you.
Well, if you run any trouble, Whiteguard here can smash it. I can hit in the knees, and you can pretty it to death.
Well, there may be dark secrets within too.
There might be.
I mean, a tower that just appears.
Yeah, I'd like to have one of them. You know what I mean? Be great for camping. Don't have to deal with those things that come wandering out of the forest and try to turn your beer to piss.
Have you had experience with those?
The stories I can tell you.
Oh, I'm sure.
I still look at my beer every time and think, is it really beer? Man, no man should have to worry about that kind of thing. Beer should be reliable.
Speaking of pissing, Whiteguard stands up and he says, I have to alleviate some pressure.
Okay.
Yes, go adjust the water levels.
Well, I'll tell you what, my new friend, while Whiteguard does that, I'll head upstairs and grab our gear and take you outside, show you our cart, and maybe we can wander down to this river down there and pay this fair fellow down there a visit. Men do that for a while. Whiteguard wanted to stretch his legs anyway.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, and with that, Doxy will finish off his beer and step up the log and head toward the stairs. He said, I'll be right back. And he heads up to the rooms, and you can actually hear the shuffling around upstairs of stuff and heavy things moving. So,
conveniently, the barmaid comes back with a haunch of a boar that had been killed earlier that morning.
Oh,
it's there waiting for you on a plate where you were sitting.
Excellent. So, well, when Doxy comes back out fully geared, he comes down wearing the breastplate and the pauldrons that are the bronze that's been reinforced with the straps of ebon on it. Really polished. You can tell that it's been repaired several times, but it's in very good repair at this point. Properly strapped and form-fitting. It doesn't really cause him much problems as far as movement goes. And on his back, he has a large shield that is bigger than his torso. Once again, it's also, careworn and but still very well maintained. And a large ebon hammer looks to be about a 16-pound sledge if you were to compare it to those kinds of tools, but the head itself is more optimized for bashing heads than beating iron. And he comes back over to the table and says, "Ah, good, the boar." He picks it up and takes a big lusty bite out of it. Oh, finally, real food. Now these people survive on fish.
It's an acquired skill.
Oh yes, very much acquired skill. Ugh. There must be some kind of a special process to get around all those bones. He takes a big bite of the boar.
Yes, I suppose if you're ready, we can step out.
Most definitely. Well, we can catch White Girl on the way out. I've got his stuff here slung over my shoulder as well, which he does. So
I can only imagine you dragging an axe.
yes, yeah, he has the axe over, with the hammer. It hangs out way quite a bit back. It's a big ebon axe, and he steps outside, looks around for White Guard, and yells at his name. White Guard, where'd you go?
Yes, with equipment like that, I can definitely see why you would have been fighting on the front.
Well, the one he went down there with is better than the one he has now. So, unfortunately, he got lost in the battlefield.
White Guard comes walking around the corner, still tying up his trews, and kind of clears his throat, or hawking up something and just spitting it to the side.
Quaint.
Doxy levers the axe up off his shoulder and plants the butt of the hammer down in front of him, grabs it, well, tries to grab it and realizes, oh, wait a minute, puts the haunch of meat in his mouth, then grabs it and passes it over toward the White Guard.
Thank you, brother. And he picks it up and leans on it and starts using it as a walking staff almost.
Doxy holds out the haunch and says, "You want any food?"
Yeah, I could use a bite of that.
Okay.
For some reason, I feel like I didn't get any food. Did she deliver food to me?
Yes, she did, but it was fish, so you ignored it. Like a good man.
Oh. He takes a big bite out of it and hands it back
to
you.
Man. Thanks, Keith. As you were.
So yeah, he Doxy wipes the grease off on his pants. Obviously, the pants themselves are travel stained. They've been laundered fairly recently, but that stain definitely adds to a few others that are already there. He looks over at Liam and says, "Oh, sorry about that. Did you want some too?"
Oh no, I'm fine. I filled up on fish.
Ah.
I thought I smelled something.
Yeah. Merchants have to live on whatever they can gather. I understand. Doxy leads the way around to the stables and presents their cart, which is it's definitely seen many miles of the road. It's got spots where it's been repaired and boards replaced and whatnot. Not the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but definitely serviceable. So he said, and he throws up a cloth off the back, and they have a stack there of a few different spears and swords and such they collected along the way and such. And he holds up one of the amphoras. He says, "See, this is what I told you I was telling you about. It's actually a very fine amphora, as if maybe it comes from the court of a king."
What you see here in the back of the cart, the implements that they were able to raid from the enemy encampment on the front, as well as pick the implements off the corpses. All of this is bronze, and with a few, maybe a small handful of ebon implements, mostly of southern variety. The broadswords are curved as if they were sabers and single-edged. The spears are long and made of ash hafts. All of the ebon implements, however, are of local make, because the Kelantherians have not discovered the secret of ebon at this time. But the cloth that they're able to that they were able to capture, however, is lighter and breathes better, as Kelanther is a scrub yet lush, arid place, a plain people. These are known as the Horse Lords of the South.
Yes, it's fine-looking equipment, about what I would expect to come from a battlefield. A few pieces of these could probably go for a fair price, and it is indeed a fine amphora.
Make me a streetwise test for me.
I would be happy to.
Yeah, this amphora I was given to as a gift from the Fernhill himself. And as White God probably remembers, he actually just walked out of the court with it and no one asked him for it back. So
It was one of those times.
With a 15 there, he's the group here has got about a couple hundred gold worth of assets here.
Yeah, I could definitely find you somebody who'd be able to buy these.
wonderful. So we can definitely use the experience or the services of an experienced healer from my friend Whitegar over here, and be helping get up on his feet a little better. As you may have noticed, he has that contraption on his leg. He received an injury while down to the south in battle, and it's troubling him a bit.
It had completely eluded me, in fact.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had trouble believing that.
That's because it was sarcasm.
Sorry, it must be the alcohol talking. By the way, out of character, I'm being kind of a dick because he's kind of in a sullen mood and a little drunk, so it's not Dave being a dick, so just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Apologies from over here in White Guard. He's been through a rough time, But battle tends to do that to Arborians, makes them all what's the word for it? Salty. That's the word. Yeah, salty Arborians.
Sounds about right, at least from what I've heard. But there's no harm, so there is no foul.
Duck. I would love some duck right now. He reaches over and gently takes the boar haunch back from White Guard, takes a big bite of it, hands it back.
I was just
So, eat up.
thinking the same thing as he takes another bite and hands it back to you.
Yeah. So as he chews through a piece and swallows. Now that you've seen our stuff, and he covers it back up again and secures it, walks over and tosses his tail boy another coin and says, "Remember, boy, keep an eye on that. No one comes through here and gets that, or I'll have your hide." So I'll make a jacket out of it like this fellow over here made it out of his pet cat. And he
The rather runty looking boy, he just timidly nods.
He's probably used to it by now.
Of course.
I do it every day. We head out to the end of the street and say, "Well, let's go pay this fellow a visit." Someone said something about he calls himself a Pike Lord. I hope he means the weapon, not the fish.
Judging by the location, I would say it's a dealer's choice.
True. Sort of half a dozen of this, 6 of the other. Yeah, I understand. Well, let's get walking, White Gar. We did exercise. He starts steadily heading out of town toward this tower.
Did I lose my horse somewhere along the way?
Yes, you did.
Oh, because I didn't ride her into battle, so
No.
okay.
And when you guys came back to Brosta, you did not have your horse with you.
Okay. All right. So he starts stretching out and limbering up as he starts walking off, and he's just sort of taking the axe and just sort of doing stretches with it and bringing his arms out as he steps out, tries to get some distance. But as slow as he's walking, he's not really getting much range away from you guys. So you have to continue to watch yourself as he's limbering up.
There is no pathway besides a small dirt and mud pathway that goes down to the local river. But cross country, it's about an hour and some minutes walk from the village to the midst of this well-worn and moss-covered tower. You start to see stakes planted into the mud that have dried pike fish heads staked on top of them, and their mouths are wide open, showing off that wide toothy maw, as that predatory fish is quite common here.
White guard turns around and he says, "Eh?" He's looking at Doxy. Don't have to, there's no myth about it now.
Fish. And mean
Fish
ones
heads.
too. And mean ones too. He leans down, looks in the mouth of one of those things, reaches up his finger and touches the edge of it, and wipes his fingers. Yeah, nasty things. Looks over at the water. I bet these things are all in there now. They'll skin you alive, I bet. Oh well, maybe he has something interesting to trade though.
Liam's holding a handkerchief up to his nose, trying to avoid the smell of fish sitting out in the sun. Yes, hopefully he has something to offer.
The blood flies get rather thick here as the landscape becomes more and more boggy as you near to where the tower is. You're on the very edge of a low marshland. Unfortunately, Whitegar is going to have to drag his bum leg through about ankle or calf deep mud and water by the time you actually get there.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to need to repolish my boots.
Doxy reaches into one of his pouches and pulls out a little can. He says, This will work just perfectly for you. You need polish for that.
Ah, much obliged.
It's a blend of a couple of herbs and some pig fat. It'll smell funny, but it'll really do wonders for the leather.
He has something for swine.
Yes.
So I've noticed.
Good animals. Very useful. Very useful. He looks up and down and around. He says, "This is an odd place to build a tower. I don't think the ground." And he stomps a couple times into the water, splashing up a bit, possibly getting a little bit on Liam's pants, possibly even. It's not very solid for a tower.
Well, judging by how it appeared, I don't think it particularly cares about how it sounds.
Mm-hmm. And that's true.
As you enter the what would be considered the front yard, in the midst of this well-worn tower, you pass through a low, mossy and viney overgrowth of fishbone wind chimes and pikes with these wide mouth fish heads dangling almost. It has a somewhat of a haunted and eerie pallor kind of hangs in the air. It's kind of a low fog here, almost like a Smashing Pumpkins music video, if you will. And the tower itself has a rather crude wooden door that has moss and offal hanging from it. It's the door itself is barely hanging on to what bronze fixtures keep it to the stone. The area that you're standing in is kind of a big 60-foot wide ovular shape in the front courtyard of this place. A few feet behind you and to your right is the river, about 8-foot drop down into the mud.
Well, Doc's going to lean back and look up to the top of the tower and sort of looking around at the way it's put together, and just this place is definitely didn't go up in a couple of weeks, or a couple of chains at least. Take a good, I don't know, quite some time to actually build something like this, and I don't see how it would move. He walks over to the edge and sort of looks down to see if there's mechanisms underneath that he could possibly discern, or wheels or whatnot, maybe that show where it, or even possibly even part of a boat. Maybe this thing is some kind of a boat. And of course, he's muttering this stuff out loud as he's looking, trying to come up with a reasonable way why it would be able to move like that.
You don't find anything of the sort. However, you do find woven baskets of common fairy offerings on the edge of the river. Loaves of bread or offerings of fish. Sometimes a bolt of fine cloth is offered, or casks of wine all strewn about. These people have no idea what this thing wishes or wants, but as you know, the Ebon folk are terrified of the fairy realm, so maybe a feeble attempt to appease said entity here.
Well, it reeks of Fey, amongst other things.
Now, these folks out here, though, they're suspicious. You get someone that looks different, they want to shove milk and honey in your face. Say, please don't hurt me if you're a fairy. Yeah.
Yes, we Ebon folk can be rather superstitious.
Yeah. I've got a friend, a traveling companion of ours. Well, I call him a traveling companion. He just sort of shows up occasionally. He's one of those Ebonese fellas. They seem to always want to try to give him offerings and such. He takes them. Of course, I would too, but they don't give them to me. But well, is there a door to this place?
Oh yes, there's a door.
Didn't you say it had offal on it, or it was hanging
yes.
in bronze?
It's molding and seeming to fall off of its hinges, but sturdy enough to function as said door.
Whitegar looks over at Doxy and uses the butt of his axe to do a couple solid taps on the door.
The sound rings an eerie hollow, as you assume it echoes throughout the bowels of this tower. There's no signs of immediate answer. You're left in an eerie, almost an awkward silence, and a few moments later, the latch, the well oxidized bronze latch of this door clicks, and then the door creaks open a few inches.
Doxy cringes at the sound of that squeaking hinge, shakes his head, and reaches into his pouch and starts fumbling out one of his balls of oil as the thing opens up. He says, "Ho there! We've come down to possibly do some trading with you. We got a merchant fellow here that's a friend of ours that is looking to spread things far and wide to make profit on them, and he thought you may have something very interesting." Doxy just sort of smiles over at Liam, but puts himself in position in case somebody decides to come out and threaten him to be protective.
No such answer comes to you as you call. Just that the eerie fog.
Is that an invitation to come in?
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like a no.
That's true. Doxy reaches up and pushes the door further open. So he gets the hinges and starts oiling the hinges, and then he starts moving the door back and forth, trying to work the oil into it. Just can't stand it. Squeaky door. It just doesn't work.
That must just be a reflex at this point for you.
It's just every time I go somewhere, I always run into these things, and it's like all you gotta do is put a little oil on it every once in a while. Even a little pig fat will work, or any kind of fat for that matter.
Well, you need to polish it too.
That's true.
After you're done oiling that, you're going to have to polish it.
Well, I'll deal with the person side first, and come with a prior price for that. This is just slight show of the work. Slight show of the work.
Yes, as fascinating as these hinges are, I can't exactly sell them.
True. Well, Doc, I guess okay, good point. He puts away his oil, opens the door, and steps inside in the darkness and pauses for a moment, let his eyes adjust, and looks around.
You see all manner of implements that a local shaman would have within their home. Fish bones and feathers and clay jars of only the gods know what. And there's a small rickety stairway that spirals up the outer wall of the tower that goes up to the second and possibly the third floor. It seems that you're standing in the midst of a kind of a front hall, kind of a living area, workshop kind of room.
What kind of stuff this guy makes? He walks over and looks at some of the things hanging about. Must be a cook.
Yes, whatever it is, I'd probably avoid touching it.
A fat toad hops across the floor in front of you.
That's interesting. Doxy sort of looks at it for a minute, walks around it, probably a pet or something of some kind. Hello there, anyone here? Why would I lick it? Arboretum.
A figure clad in a woven cloak and well-worn leather sandals and breeches comes down. Comes out of the stairs. He is tall, angular, and clearly of the Fey. A very powerful presence enters the room. And it says, someone say a rasping, low voice, almost a whisper or a murmur. I have guests. Thank you for your visit. Please be seated.
Doxy turns to him and bows, and I suppose we address the master of the keep. And thank you very much for the offer. Doxy looks over and finds a chair or actually a stool and takes a seat.
The stool that you choose had a spotted frog upon it, but as you go to grab the stool, the frog hops up on the table and then attends the group there.
Okay. Doxy looks at it and sort of tilts his head a little bit. Pets. He sits down. He says, my name's Doxy Hardanville. I'm a smith and engineer, and I brought my friend here, Liam, who's a merchant, down to see if you possibly had things you might want to trade or would like to have traded somewhere for you to be, based proxy for you if you'd like, maybe up into Fellport itself.
I have no need of your mortal city, but I appreciate your offer. This powerful phase gaze rests upon Liam, and you're stricken with an uncomfortableness as this thing gazes into you. It's dark brown hair has moss and vines keeping it in its braids. Its clothes are like a fine silken linen. It's of a substance that is clearly not of the realm of mortals, but cobwebs and moss and swamp scum, algae, and the like clings to the folds in his clothes. you see a fine dagger of Fey iron that hangs comfortably from his left hip. Under his fingernails, you see the same pond scum, and his skin is blotched and dirty, as if he had been possibly swimming in the murky swamp nearby.
Doxy's looks this guy up and down. Starts to feeling a little uncomfortable at this point because he's a bit out of the realm of his normal. Looks over at White Guard and he sort of leans over to him. He says, "You guys have any more experience with these fellas? I know Arborians deal with Fey all the time, but I don't know what to say now."
Who has the highest sight at this time?
Oh, Doxy's the lowest, I guarantee you.
Liam will be pushing it with you.
I've got a 9.
Got me beat.
I would like White Guard to make let's say an intuition test out of his sight.
Okay.
Straight 2d8 roll.
Ooh. Had one explosion, so
Perfect.
plus the bonus, which is a total of a 19.
You're standing in the midst of one of the entities called a Fey Lord. These entities are of the immortal Fey caste and are regularly found in the Seelie and or Unseelie courts. White Guard would understand that this Pike Lord is Unseelie.
And you would treat them like you would a noble?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
White Guard begins sort of hobbling around, sort of inspecting the algae and stuff on the walls, and he starts speaking in Fey, and he says, "May I know your name, so I am to address you properly?"
You're kind. You may refer to me as sire. Nothing more.
He's being sarcastic, right?
You can't tell.
Well, I mean, the word is said sire, or he wants me to call him sire, because usually sire implies like my liege or something like that.
That's what he's referring to.
Like a liege, okay. Like a
Correct.
as much as respect as I have for you, you alone have lived long. I have to decline the offer at calling you sire. No offense meant. But what I wanted to say was, my companion Doxy, your methods are definitely your own, and far be it from me to question you on your hygiene, but to understand the structure that you're living within, my friend can help you with his tools and correct the situation of your door, at least mechanically, if you'd like that. I think that would be something you would need.
The Pike Lord settles his gaze that you could only just imagine comes from the Winter Court on Doxy. And again, you're struck by that uncomfortable feeling as almost as he's gazing into your very being. And then with a hand gesture, he gestures you to the door and says nothing.
Doxy or me?
He's looking at Doxy.
Okay.
Doxy takes no delay and sort of half smiling and gets up and walks over to the door, starts inspecting the hinges, pulls out a cloth with a bit of solvent and starts wiping away some of the corrosion along the outside. He says, "Oh, it'll take just a moment for me to correct some of the problems here, and it won't squeak at all once I'm done. It'll be just a beautiful, noiseless opening and closing, very smooth, as befits a proper noble." So
As you're saying this, you just assume that the Pike Lord is just ignoring you. He
probably, yeah.
turns his gaze back to White Gar. You bring your darkness into my home.
The door was open. You let me in. You welcomed me.
It's a he kind of cocks a beautiful eyebrow at you at that remark. Did I?
And so it would seem, as I kind of bring the axe over and I lean my chin on it, sort of lean forward, not being coy or anything, just sort of enjoying the conversation. But it might look like might be being disrespectful, but I'm taking weight off my leg.
The Pike Lord glides over to what you assume to be a throne of sorts made of almost looks like driftwood and held together by twine or vines, maybe an elk horn of some kind here or there. He gestures to the two of you. He gestures to the table with stools around it. Again, says nothing.
Which stool looks the cleanest?
The one opposite Doxy, or the one that Doxy chose.
And we'll go sit down, but he'll brush it off slightly before sitting.
The Pike Lord looks into Liam. Tell your kin in the village that I only require woven reeds with the lavender and white flowers as tribute. And in the wet season, I require red spiced wine. Nothing more.
Very well. I can definitely see about getting that message along. Now, you mentioned the the wet season. Are you planning on staying long?
This is my court now.
Ah, neighbors then.
Which essentially in Fey talk is as long as you will have ancestors or descendants to live in this region.
Then I shall definitely be certain to get the message along so that way we may offer you nothing but the best.
You will tell your children what I have said this day. And their children, you will tell that they are safe in my realm. They are not to harm the frogs or the birds, the river or the fishes. They may harvest when I tell them. You will say this to the mortals nearby and along the river.
Well, just consider me a loyal messenger. I shall recite it word for word.
The Pike Lord nods and says nothing.
You hear a little under his breath over by the door, almost a laugh from Doxy. Less fish, wonderful.
Yeah, no more fare of the fish at the, and no more toad legs.
And it definitely means food trade will be up, so there's that.
That's true.
I expect Pike would probably be near the top.
The mortals may harvest the pike only in the proper season, after the spawn of the fish.
Very
If you
good.
do not follow this law, we will have words.
Of course, and we would not want that, now would we?
The Pike Lord settles his gaze upon Whitegar again.
Tell me of the bones.
They
He
allow
kind of,
me to see outside of this realm.
oh, I'm intrigued.
You are not sleeping well. That's not a question, that's simply a statement.
I almost lost my leg.
How do you fare with such an injury?
I'm breathing. I can amble. I can still swing my axe. I guess I should be thankful to Lekra. And he kind of reaches up and he touches the metal of his axe. Kind of like slides down his hand down the blade, or the hat, the head of the axe. And for a moment, he actually nicks his finger on it and looks surprised, and then just sort of puts it in his mouth.
At the mention of Lekra, he lowers his head respectfully. I feel that you will heal from this. I see that your road will be a rocky and rough one.
Well,
You
I'm glad
must
I have
not
this
lose
brace on.
heart in these times.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Now
Whitegar says, I'm glad I have a brace. And he kind of leans down and he smacks the side of it and just shakes it a little bit as he looks at, kind of ironically over it, sarcastically over at Doxy.
The Pike Lord settles his gaze on Doxy's back as those eyes burn holes in your back as you're working on this.
And Doxy will, as he's now gone from the hinges to the locking mechanism, will pause for a moment, looks over and says, I'll get this one working good as new too. As a matter of fact, I can probably, he looks at it and, does this thing have a keyhole?
It does not.
I can get you one with a proper key if you'd like.
He just gestures dismissively.
Okay. He goes back to polishing this one and cleaning off. And actually, at this point, he's gotten out of a rasp and started removing some of the corrosion on the locking mechanism as well. Okay. So after working probably about a good 10, 15 minutes, he stands up, puts his hands on his hips, and says, "Well, that's about as much as I can do without a full proper kit." But he unlatches the door and opens it up, and it swings smoothly open, nice and quiet. He closes it, and the latch latches properly. He says, "There you go." So
The Pike Lord gestures to the chair that you've chosen before. I accept your tribute.
oh, excellent. So Doctor goes over and sits down and says, "Just being neighborly." So
The Pike Lord stands very slowly, looks at the three of you slowly with a really hard look. You will wait a few moments. I have something for you. He walks to his stairway, ascends into the second level. You hear a wooden chair, move across the wooden boards. There's also a click of metal and another closing of, you can only assume, a crate or a chest of some kind. He comes back and he places a small Fey iron hammer in front of Doxy. This is about probably a size. It's about a size 12-pound rounding hammer for a forge.
okay, nice. Doctor leans forward, his eyes light up. It's a beautiful piece.
It's inscribed with the script of the High Fey Courts. And it is one piece of Fey iron, hammer and haft, one piece.
Uniforged. Doctor says, looks up at him and says, may I pick it up?
He says nothing to you as he places a bracelet, a broad ebon bracelet with a garnet stone set into it in front of Liam. And then finally he walks to Whitegar and places a carved wooden and bone gnarled ghastly thing in his hands. The Pike Lord then returns to his throne, and he smirks at the three of you. And this smirk is so goddamn unsettling. He harnesses every nightmarish horror and evil in that smirk, and he says, "Being neighborly."
Well,
Of course.
very generous. Doxy picks the hammer up and tests the weight of it.
Oh, it is perfectly balanced. It is the finest work of metallurgy that you've seen.
This is definitely beyond my skill, but I'll tell you what, I will definitely make you something with it. So
I require nothing of you at this time. Only that you tell the mortals here what I have decreed.
So be it. I will definitely spread the word.
What is this bone again?
It is a carved effigy and wrapped with, you can only assume, hair, black fey hair. It's got fish bones wrapped around it. Could I get you to make an academics test for me as you're holding this thing in your hands? It's on a cord that has like small shells, fresh and saltwater shells around it.
Okay. Let's see. Academics is under cunning. Okay. That's a total of a 20.
Oh, perfect. What you have in front of you is an amulet, almost a holy effigy dedicated to the goddess Malgora, who is the Lady of Sorrow, as she is. She's associated with the spirit realm, as well as, like I said, nightmares and sadness. You also see that there is runes of protection carved into the wood and on every fourth bead of this necklace.
Atean by nature, right?
Not as such. Melgora is sometimes worshipped by Ateans, but she is not an Atean patron. Okay. Many mortals worship Melgora, especially in times of mourning. Is when she her high holidays are.
This is thoughtful, and I kind of gesture with a sort of a clasp, and I say, and I use the term for respected friend in Feywise as opposed to, or Feywise as opposed to calling him sire.
To use the high Fey word for friend.
Yeah.
He doesn't nod, he doesn't move, he doesn't blink. He just stares at you.
And I shake it at him. I'm just kidding. No. I don't. I don't. Sorry.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, total break of immersion. Thanks, Dave.
Damn it, man. No.
He's staring at me intently.
You're not quite sure if he accepts that, or he's just stonewalls you at this point. Gratitudes for your visit. He eyes Liam almost slyly as you've not picked up the bracelet at this time, have you?
No, Liam has been trying to appear as small as possible as he can. Though some of his skittishness seems to go away when the bracelet is set down in front of him, and there's a glint in his eye as his merchant nature wants to take over and appraise it.
There is no roll needed. This is excellent and the finest craftsmanship that you've ever seen. This is clearly not of the mortal realm.
It is a beautiful piece, my lord.
It is yours now.
My, for simply being a messenger. How gracious.
He nods gracefully.
Well, I suppose unless there's anything else you require of us, we should probably leave such an important man to his business.
He looks at the three of you and then gestures to the door. I grant you protection in your travels.
Our thanks. Now, come along.
Doxy looks at the hammer a little bit and looks up and realizes that there's a conversation going on, and Liam's come along. He looks over. Oh, we're done. Oh well, nice to meet you, my lord. I'll definitely spread the word to my folks about your presence here and the don't eat the fish thing. They'll be happy to do that, I'm pretty sure. And so he gets up and looks around and takes his ebon hammer and straps it to his belt and one of the hooks he has there, and takes the other hammer in his hand and swings it a couple times back and forth. Beautiful, beautiful work, beautiful work. Thank you again, thank you again. He turns and heads towards the door with Liam.
The Pike Lord simply watches you leave with all the grace and etiquette of a king in his throne, overseeing his court. You close the now refurbished front door behind you, and it clicks quietly, without a squeak at all. You find yourself out in that muddy patch out in front of the court. The sun shines a little bit brighter here, regardless if there is an absence of the star in the sky that you do notice here, which for Whitegar, as he is part plant in this way, he should feel a little bit more invigorated, as Arborians can gain about 3% of their full nutrition from light of the sun. It is soothing and quite wonderful in your weakened state. You possibly have a bounce in your stride now as you take in this new light. What is it that you do here in this quiet moment?
Liam visibly shivers a bit. Knew it was Fey.
They aren't so bad. At least they give you, nice payment for a job well done. At least just spread the word.
It's a shame he didn't actually want to trade anything, Liam says as he holds the bracelet up and inspects it in the light. I could make a pretty penny selling these off.
I think it may be bad luck to sell that.
That's what a lot of people say about a lot of things.
That's true. So, but I don't know. I'm definitely not selling this hammer. This hammer, I can make some. Well, I can actually work Fey iron with this thing if I get the chance.
Oh yes, I'm sure. And this bracelet is absolutely beautiful. It's simply a shame it's not set with emeralds, as nice as garnets are.
Yeah, garnets tend to be associated with from what I've been told, with the water type, beings and whatnot. I guess. Don't know why.
Everyone has their preference.
It's definitely true.
But for us mortals, this season, our preference is emeralds.
So, yeah, well, I hope the overseer didn't take offense to this guy setting up shop this close to his walls.
Yes, that remains to be seen.
Whiteguard takes a deep breath as he's putting the gift into his pouch, and he's kind of staring curiously at Liam, trying to figure him out. He says, "It was a gift from a Fey Lord."
Yes, and I'm sure telling that to somebody will hike the price up that much higher.
He just looks at Doxy for a moment, looks back to him, and he's like, "Everything has a price, I guess."
Exactly.
Definitely does. So I can tell you this: if I were to make something like that, I'd probably sell it for I don't know. It's a few gold at least. So I usually leave that up to the merchants and such themselves, but I'm not a merchant guild person myself. We just make the stuff. But it's definitely a nice piece.
Yes. I'm almost afraid to wear it, lest I be mugged in the streets.
We'll protect you. Don't worry.
Yes.
Someone comes for your bracelet, I'll take up their kneecaps. Good at that.
Yes, this is the save for party kind of jewelry.
Definitely understand that. Doc looks at the hammer in his hand and thinks back to the ones up in the Ebon Forge that the masters use that are not quite as good as this one actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
They do not have Fey iron hammers in your guild.
This one, Doc keeps rotating in his hand. He says, "Yeah, there's gonna be some masters jealous of this. I definitely understand. They understand that." So,
Well, just give me first bid at anything you might be willing to sell.
oh, definitely. Wouldn't mind going up and spending a couple of days in the forge and seeing how this thing works out, and see if we can maybe take some of those cruder ebon spearheads and such and forge them into something a little more sellable, I guess you'd say.
Yes, something more substantial.
Definitely. So maybe a belt, a couple belts, that'd be good. So Doxy starts heading toward the area where at the edge of the courtyard area back up toward the town. How's the knee, Whitegar? Can you make it back now?
Yeah, you notice that he's actually walking with a bounce in his good leg step.
Okay.
Doing all right, Doxy.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, the fact that, hey, let's fish, I'm all for that. So
yeah, but no
on your way back
legs.
to the tavern here, you do find that the trip is far more forgiving now than it was previously. You don't sink into the mud nearly as much as you did before.
Wonderful.
Sometimes it's good to face the Fae.
Debatable.
Well, I heard a story from these fellas about there was this guy down at the front we were talking to, another Arborian like Whitegar. He had a friend of his. He had a friend of his apparently that I don't know how in the world this worked out, but he wound up becoming like the consort of the Ebony's queen.
Oh goodness, that is quite the story.
Yeah. You've heard the story, Whitegar, about that fella Tone.
Oh yeah, he definitely got toned up.
He did. So yeah, He'd probably say, yeah, dealing with the Fae's pretty nice. So,
I think that he got his sword polished a number of times, if I weren't mistaken.
I wouldn't mind trying over and meeting the fellow at some point. He's somewhat of a legend. But hey, we got a message to deliver.
Yeah.
Yes. And I need to see about procuring food provisions.
That I can
That
help you with.
seems like it is going to be quite lucrative in the future, seeing as we need to cut down on our fish.
Pork
There's a
features.
staple, something needs to replace it.
Pork features. Pigs. They're easy to raise. Feed them your scraps. They make great food.
I'm thinking more import.
Well, that's true.
It's a good opportunity to start a new business venture.
That is definitely true.
I think right here, guys, we'll take our 10-minute break for the evening.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Right
All
back.
right, gents. See you in 10. All right, welcome back, everybody.
Hello. Now we're back. Interesting Fey. I like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely unique.
Should we make a deal with that guy, Rafe?
Well, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, we did get a bonus for every task that he has put forward to us. So.
I mean, if anybody's looking for a warlock patron.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he absolutely could be an entity that you could make a pact with.
I cast Pike.
Big ass fish.
And I roll for fish slap.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Sometimes
terrible.
you get. Oh god. Big ass fish with teeth, and they're mean.
Aha, it's a pike made out of pike.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you'll find out in the near future, as soon as I roll the stuff out, we do have a system for doing pacts with spiritual beings. So
Nifty.
yes.
Yeah,
And you do not have to be a spellcaster to have one.
That's right.
Ooh.
Anybody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Are there merchant fae?
Oh yeah. I'm sure there are.
Well,
I'm
maybe.
sure there are.
That's actually Keith's department. He is the magic system designer.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are some Fae out there that participate in trade.
Let me go find the equivalent of Hermes.
Yes.
Oh, right.
They may trade in souls, but you never know.
Hey, man, it's still currency. Money is money.
Yeah, Liam would happily sell somebody else's soul.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you smarmy asshole. I fucking love this character.
I've been enjoying him so far.
Oh, God, yeah. Anyway. All right, back in character here.
And game face.
You enter Brosta from the marsh side, and you begin making your way back to the tavern, and horror befalls Doxy. Horror and surprise as he hears the most beloved and familiar voice of his eldest daughter. And she, this female voice screams, "Papa!" As she, there's a catch in her voice, and you know, as a father, there is something wrong. As you turn to see,
As soon as I see her, of course, I'm going to run towards her and, of course, scoop up my arms and give her the biggest hug a daddy could ever give. And as soon as being sure that's actually her and such, I look at her face and I said, "What's wrong, little one?"
her cheeks are wet and burning red with tears. She's kind of caught up in the emotions of this reunion, and you see your eldest sister there with you. As she comes up and she kisses you on the cheek and hugs you very tightly. Would you describe your family to us and the audience, please?
Well, my little daughter, her name is her name is much like her cousin Laverna, is probably about 3.5 feet tall. So about a head shorter than me. Unlike me, though, she's very, well, what can be considered lithe for a bearded folk. She's not very broad-shouldered, though. Of course, obviously, her body is substantial. Her hair is the color of the setting sun on a cloudy day. It's almost a fiery red, and her face is much lighter than Doxy's. Of course, she hasn't had the experience of standing before the forge for years as of yet, with the sprinkle of freckles across her cheeks that are common among the young of our people. Her aunt, who's standing there, is almost as broad as Doxy himself, with long, dark brown hair, hazel-colored eyes, and with her, there's a faint wisp of facial hair upon her face. Even the bearded folks, women folk and such, are bearded as well. Let's see here. They're probably wearing the I would say probably traveling clothes of our clan, which would be greens and browns, more green than brown, and fairly simple. We're not a very fancy folk, if you will. So I look at them and say, little Lavernia, where's your mother? Where's your little sister? Where's Brianne? Brianne being the little one.
Your sister, still holding you, breaks away for a few moments as kind of making room for your eldest daughter. She holds your shoulders out at arm's length, and she steels herself. Your eldest sister is a very strong, a very independent woman. She is unmarried because not because she is independent, because she refuses to settle. She enjoys being alone, and as you were children, you would tease her, saying that the only man that she would ever accept as husband would be a king or an emperor, because that is the only woman, or the only man that could follow her. And she says, choking back a knot in her throat, and she says, Igraine has fallen to the plague at home.
What? Doxy says quietly. You can hear the crack in his voice as he says it. She's fallen? And he looks down at his daughter as her form starts to blur in his eyes. He blinks as if for a moment he thinks he's losing his sight, and then he feels the wetness on his cheeks. And he's like, he picks her up and holds her tight and looks at his sister and says, she's fallen? Almost as if he's trying to ask her to please tell him it's a cruel joke. He stands there, his knees wobbling on it under him.
She shakes her head no, and her lip quivers as her lower lip quivers as yours is about to.
Yeah.
And she again crushes you. And she says, your youngest perished with her.
With that, Doxy's knees give out, and he falls down to his knees, with pulling the two of them down with him, and just starts sobbing. not quietly, just racks of pain and sorrow spewing from his chest as he just buries his face into his daughter's shoulder, pressing her tight, almost to the point where she herself can't breathe, holding her to him.
And we're still in the street right now, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Getting out in the light rain. You're not. This is not a private matter. You are no. The rest of the other two of you will actually see about 200 bearded folk in a long caravan streaming into the village. At this point, all clearly similar clan, if maybe similar looking hair and beards. Clearly, these are hard anvils, and it slowly becomes a mess here.
And,
At least they're not going to be eating fish.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I can't speak for the frog legs, but I mean,
oh, Dave, 100 bonus XP. Thank you.
yes.
You're a fucking asshole. All right. All right. Back in character.
Of course, as tradition is something about the bearded folk is a big thing. They gather him up, the other members of the clan and such, and sort of spirit him away to somewhere where he can be he can grieve for his wife. So he'll be away for a bit. Basically, they'll take him in somewhere and make sure he's basically taken care of and tell him exactly what happened and such. And next time he's seen, I'll let you guys do some stuff there and tell you how he comes out at. So,
what do you three do, or the rest of you, the two of you, excuse me, Liam and White Guard, do for the next 3 days?
Well, we need to get a tent, I think, based on the number of bearded folk that have just streamed in here. Like a barracks of some sort to set up for them to sleep in, right?
Well, the weather this season has been nice. I'm sure they'd be fine outside.
Many of them brought their own tents, and they set up campfires. Some of them moved directly on to Fellport, but not terribly many stay outside the city.
I would imagine that Whitegar is trying to give Doxy as much space as he needs, but he's also trying to be as supportive as possible in this time, as they're kind of like a Mutt and Jeff situation. They're sort of like brothers from another mother. So he is as shattered by this as definitely not as much as Doxy, but he's definitely shaken by it. And he's extra crass with Liam over the next 3 days. Kind of snapping at Liam's ways, the way that because they just don't see eye to eye. Because Whitegar is of that mindset of like, like the gift. He was like, it's a gift from a noble. It's like you would treasure this thing, not sell it. And so those types of things. So yeah, Liam's probably almost done with Whitegar and his snippy manner. But Whitegar would also try to see if he can assist with any sort of making the lives easier of these bearded folk, and at least in this small community, because there's going to be tension, right?
Of course, the bearded folk that have come from the west are more accustomed to your kind as their ancestral homeland, and yours are within a few hundred miles of each other. They're not terribly used to mortals like Liam and his stock, but they certainly do put you to work. Those outside of Doxy's direct family will put you to work sending messages and speaking to the locals on their behalf. And you do play the part as a nobleman and an ambassador between these two cultures. While in the back of your mind, you have your own grief as well as your own goals and the other things plaguing your mind. Again, those whispering, those shadowy whispers on the edge of your consciousness with those icy clawed nails scratch at the wall of your consciousness day in and day out as your grief and your sorrow begin to mount in this time. On the morning of the third day.
Wait, did we get? I think Liam was. Not only did he have to deliver the the good news, but I would definitely make sure that he did that. But he didn't say what he was going to do for 3 days.
Yes. Liam, having met Doxy approximately a few hours before the incident, is not entirely sure how to express his condolences beyond my condolences. After which point he would probably make his way back to the inn, secure some of his stuff, and see about delivering the message to whomever might be the most applicable.
Well, there's a local lord who lives in a hall on the edge of the village there that is trying to see over his now abundance of beards in his village, but he is very thankful when you thankful that you brought the word of said fairy lord, but utterly petrified that there is a fairy lord who is now holding court on the edge of his fiefdom.
Yes, it's quite the event. But, moving forward, I'm sure you've noticed the gaggle of short folk wandering around. Do you know of any, potential vendors in the area who might be interested in, setting up a little bit of shop?
Outside the farmers here in the village, nothing of that kind. All of the merchants live within the city.
Sounds about right. I could probably stop into some of the farmers, seeing about peddling some of their goods. I'm sure the bearded folk are hungry. And as I hear, they're not a big fan of fish.
You may do as you wish here. We are in a time of harvest. The Ebon Harvest Coven of Wardens will be here for the next season's seed and blessing of the ancient stones here soon. You're free to come and go as you wish, merchant.
Music to my ears. Well, unless there's anything else I can do for you or you might have to offer, I will see myself out.
As you wish. The local lord goes back to attending the other serfs that are wishing to have an appointment with him.
All right. Liam will leave. Um, Probably stop by the inn, gather up a couple of things, see if Whitegar is interested in making a trip out to some of the homesteads. But otherwise, he would, start heading out to some of the nearer ones.
I'm going to say that you have spoken to a number of them, but they are in the midst of seeing to their farms. But most of them are subsistence farmers, so they grow enough to feed themselves as well as sell a little bit in their marketplace. They're simple, pretty podunk serfs as they are. So a man of Liam's stature and cunning is probably far, far beyond their uh, comprehension. So they will decline and take care of their matters themselves.
You couldn't potentially be convinced to part with just a few bits of food here and there for the suffering bearded folk.
The word going around the village is the bearded folk have their own provisions that they brought that they can sustain themselves with. So they have no need to accept donations or charity at this time. But on the morning of the third day, as you finish your errands and your diplomatic talks with the factions, the different entities in the village, Whiteguard does find a deep, red-haired individual that he finds quite familiar and possibly very comforting in the marketplace. You recognize across the way Aethelwolf. It's very hard to miss Red's mane of blood red hair, especially in the throng of the marketplace that day.
And I kind of lean against my axe for a moment and kind of look at him. And what's going through my mind is as I see the back of him and his cloak, and the memories wash over me at the moment for looking back on when I was a young Red Jack and training and so on. And I kind of look down, and as I'm looking down, my eye catches the glint of the metal of the connected to some leather straps on my leg. And I almost kind of slide my arm underneath my cloak and just turn and hit myself in the leg and sort of turn and sort of shoulder slump. I kind of start trying to walk away from the marketplace, almost ashamed, hoping that he didn't see me. But then halfway as I walk around the corner, I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? And I would imagine that as I turn around to probably go back, he probably has followed me around the corner.
Yes, you turn around and he's right there.
And as he does this, I almost fall off. If it weren't for my axe, I kind of lean out wide and catch myself because my leg actually buckles and my hair just kind of sways and you can see the wispiness of it. Brother.
As you go to stumble, he'll reach out and he'll grab the front of your hauberk and then guide you to a barrel that's just nearby for you to sit down on it. He doesn't say anything to you. He just eyes the brace on your leg and then looks back up into your eyes.
Yeah. It's I probably should have died that day. I've failed twice now. And he bites his tongue. He's just so disgusted with it.
You're quite a stubborn man, Whitegar. I don't think anyone would be able to lay you low. The reaching blade of the assassin has a hard time finding you.
The assassin.
It's a figure of speech, Whitegar.
Oh.
He turns and looks over his shoulder. It's all right, what wilt thou? He is seated. And the lady of the house walks out into this alleyway from behind one of the adjacent hovels. As she comes to stand next to her brother, she takes a deep hood off, revealing her stunning features and also her mane of thick red hair. She nods to you.
Wygar forces himself up and lays his axe down and hobbles down on and kneels, reaching up to take her hand.
She does not give you her hand when she sees that you are knelt in the mud. She just looks away.
He gets up and sighs, and I'm just a mess of choices.
Aethelwulf begins by saying, "There is no one left but a handful of us wanderers now. There are no fjorda that come to our banner. There is no home for us anymore. So I am dissolving our house. I am sorry that I was not there to stop you at your duel. I wish I could have saved you from such tragedy. I had heard that the Lord of the Lockwood had declared our feud ended, so there's no need to fight them anymore. He holds out his hand and he says, I'm going to need your leg wraps.
And Whitegar is visibly just, it's almost as if he just got punched across the face. Like his jaw is slacked. And he turns around and he takes the axe and he embeds it into the barrel behind him, splitting it basically, but he just puts it in there and kneels down and, well, actually stands and begins roughly pulling them off. And ceremonially wraps the one, and then takes the second one and does the similarly and puts them both in his hands. And he sets them on the barrel next to the axe. And then he takes off his cloak. And he lays it across it and he just says, these are my accoutrements. But there's one last thing that I must return. And he pulls out the garter. And he hands it to the lady.
With a heavy heart, Aethelwulf speaks the words, Whitegar, I hereby strip you of your land and your title, because there is no land or lord for you to fight for. You are free to wander as you wish. There is no dishonor here. There is no house. You are no longer of Red Winter. There is no bad blood between us. As he takes your cloak, your leg wraps, and the garter from you.
There is no us. And he spits in the mud and he says, you've given it all. I guess my failure sealed that.
You did not fail us. We failed that day on the field when they won. You are free from blame. Wilthau looks at you and says, I do not hold a grudge. I understand that you are only meaning to protect us.
Everything I've done was for the Red Jacks.
Aethelwulf simply nods.
I need a drink. He just turns and wobbles away and hits into like this wall, and then comes back, and he grabs his axe and just picks it up and throws it over his shoulder as his pant legs are just sort of billowing below him because his pants are all undone, and he's walking in for lack of a cloak. And yeah, as he just looks back at them one last time, and he doesn't know what to say. He just feels like he's just had the last thing that he had was just taken, stripped of him.
You catch Wilthau's gaze just before you round the corner. And she holds up a hand and just a wave to you. They both turn and leave, leaving you alone in the alleyway.
Yeah, he's going to go and get a bottle of... He's going to crawl into a bottle. And probably get passed out in the alley, just literally laying there in his filth and mud, and with his axe laying on his lap, and just drunk.
For the few moments that we three find ourselves in the Boar Snout, Doxy is surrounded by family and relatives. Liam gives him a bit of space, but does sit nearby. And Whitegar, you walk into the tavern and you see this scene open up before you. And there's no small amount of alcohol in the air, as some of them are mourning, some of them are having quiet conversations. Doxy and Whitegar lock eyes for just a few moments. What do you do here?
Well, Doxy looks a bit different than it did before. At the moment, every one of the bearded folk have their head covered, which normally they go about with their, their braids and such out, and showing the world basically them. Whiteguard would probably notice, even though he's at the moment in mourning himself or his family or his house following, that Doxy's hood is somewhat tight to his head, and that peak of auburn hair isn't showing itself underneath. And Doxy tilts his head and says, "Whitegar, where are your colors, my brother? What happened?"
Yeah, he's literally staggering from table to table, holding on to his axe, and he's covered in mud at this point, and he's probably... He just looks a sight. He is...
Okay. At this point, even though he has his own mourning, he'll jump to his friend Doxy will and help steady you and get you into a chair, and look over at the barmaid, who's probably run frazzled. He just looks at her. He says, "Bring the hardest thing you got." He says.
She says, "What? I'll keep it coming."
Okay. At this point, you notice that as Doc is looking around, his hood sort of shifted a little bit, and his head is completely bare. There's no hair on his head. His beard's there still, but his hair ends at his ears. And it falls back, and you see the angry red outlining black of a tattoo that now runs from above or just behind one temple all the way around the head to the other side. It's bearded folk runes in black, and the definitely very fresh. Of course, Doxy's eyes are red himself from shedding tears. And, he sits down next to you and says, "I think we both have mourning to do, my friend.
He kind of leans over and he puts his hands on your head because he's drunk still. He's just, he's a mess. Wow. You look good, Bald.
That's tradition. There's a tradition demands. He sort of chokes a little bit. Igraine and Brienne were given to the fire, and they brought the ash or some of the ashes with them. And he reaches up to his head and touches the tattoo and says, "Now they'll be with me always."
That's why he was actually not being weird, or he was Whiteguard was actually touching your head because he knew. And it's done. And I look down at my legs, and the house is no more.
Sad day, my friend. It's a sad day. But and he looks up in your eyes. He says, "At least you don't have to go around trying to kill little pricks from that one house anymore, huh?" He slaps you on the knee a little bit. Not the bad knee, the good knee.
Oh.
No, sorry about that. But hey, he takes the bottle from the barmaid and pours a good swig in there. Pours a bit in his glass as well and tilts it up. His eyes get a little big from the fumes off this stuff. He says, "Crawl in that bottle. We'll make sure." He looks around his, rest of his clan and such around. "You're safe here. You're among family. Might not be the one you want to be among, but you're among family." And
it's family. My oath is gone. I can be as unscrupulous as Liam now. And I kind of being half sarcastic, half humorous.
Yeah. Well, I heard Liam was going around trying to get the local farmers and such to bring provisions and stuff into the clan, and that was a very, very nice of him. I don't think he's nearly as unscrupulous as you might think he is.
I don't think he's a bad guy. He
dresses like a peacock. He's
coin in everything that we talk about. Everything boils down to money.
Yeah, that's true. He takes another swig of his drink, looks over and sees his daughter sitting with her aunt over at the table, just a bit away from them. And he says, "I'll have to get her an apprenticeship. She's got the shoulders for a smith."
You don't think she's a warrior?
No, nah. Well, she may.
Afraid to see her on the battlefield?
Oh no, I'm afraid the other ones would hate to see her on the battlefield, but having her in a smithy, I think, would be at least a good start for her. If she chooses later on to go to that, she could do so. But at least this way, she'd be taken care of.
Are they here to stay?
They, at least for a while. Yeah, yes, they are. They're moving here. Too much contention back in Arborea. So there'll be, I'm sure, plenty of family to be around here at the moment. And he looks up and his eyes seem to go distant as if he's remembering something pleasant. And then they go dark. He says, "But I still have a task ahead of me. And I can't take her into that. I'd rather her be in a smithy learning the basics than be out roaming the streets of Fellport. That place can corrupt. It can corrupt anything. And I don't want her to live like that. Good steady work. That's
Well,
what she needs.
for all his faults, Liam is a well-trained merchant, and I think that at least his skills could be very useful right now, considering all the there is just a dearth of skill in this city, in this town right now, and of all the people to figure out the best way to get that moving and flowing, maybe he can get that in motion and before we leave. Or
That's true. Get them settled in, starting building houses, building forges, finding rock quarry nearby. Start getting goods put together to start trading with the city and every other places too.
As you are quietly holding your conversation, Doxy takes another long take of his pipe. Takes a nice big swallow of his rather potent beer. The barmaid has been seemingly attending to your needs more than anyone else in the tavern. You take a drink, you set it down, you set the mug down. You say, King Hadnar of the Longbeards, standing in the doorway to the Boar Snout. And your heart stops in its chest. The king strides into the center of the tavern, and everyone, all the beards, turn and look upon their king. Anyone who has a pipe, anyone who has a mug, everyone holds up both or either as their king enters the tavern, and he just nods. Old and an ancient bearded folk. His beard is silver, and it is long as his ankles. He does not have a beard as normal bearded folk do. He has a thick hedge, an apron hanging off the front of his face. He catches your eye, and he nods, almost like that Santa Claus witty smirk, and winks. He comes on over to you. Doxy, lad.
Whiteguard drunkenly gets up and accidentally bumps into him unintentionally, and he's like, "Sir, my apologies." And he pulls a chair over, and he pulls back and, please have a seat.
The king just holds up a hand, and he reaches out and grabs your sleeve and steadies you. All right, lad, steady on. Sit down before you fall down.
The king, sorry, that's my friend Whitegar. He's had a bit of a blow himself today.
This is Whitegar. Oh, all right. He looks you up and down.
Doxy gets to his feet a little unsteadily because of the stuff he's been drinking. He says, "McKing, how may I be of service?"
Well, you can have a seat. I'm not staying long.
Doxy will fall back into his seat.
I come to give my condolences for your loss. I feel as if I could not find a way to make her and many of our kin better, my apothecaries were spread too thin. There is a darkness that has fallen over our home, and we are driven from such in this time.
I don't blame you, McKean. I know you would have done what you could to protect our people. And thank you for thinking of me at this time.
He looks outside through a window. Damn, it rains a lot this in here. How do you not rust?
It does. Oh, you got to oil everything all the time.
God's be damned. I don't. There cannot be enough oil for all of it. I see militia standing out in this shit. How do they not sink into the mud? He throws his hands up in the air. No.
Drink. It's what we have to do. And he kind of extends his leg and it creaks with the. I'm sure Doxy looks at it like that needs to be oiled too. And he's like, we drink. That's what we do.
And as you can see by the state of his clothing, they fall down in the mud a lot as well. It's a miserable place to live. Oh, and they keep trying to feed you fish. But luckily, hey, there's a great thing. There's this Fey Lord now who says they can't fish all the time anymore, so they don't start eating real food, real meat. So,
Oh well.
Yeah.
I don't mind fish, just not all the time.
Yeah, as I said, all the time. You know, every meal is like, oh, here's some bread, here's some vegetables, here's some fish to ruin it. Here's some vegetables, here's some bread, here's some fish to ruin it. You know. Now,
the king scrunches up his nose at this.
Every once in a while, they'll bring in some boars. There is some boar to hunt in the area, so we'll have to make sure we get that. Now, as I said, he points across the room over towards Sir Liam. That fellow over there was trying to get provisions for us for the past couple of days. He's a good sort. You should definitely talk to him about making arrangements to get some merchants from up in the city down here to start helping us out with the basics for forges and whatnot, so you can start making nails and such.
He's a little bit of a fop, but he means well.
Yeah, that's true. You got a really pretty cat cloak.
The king looks over to Liam. He gives you that same wink and smirk. Oh, witty. Look, nods. I'll have words soon, lad. What's Liam been doing for, I suppose, the past several hours? Because there is drinking, there is smoking, there is gambling, there is dice, there is women, anything that you could possibly want, and decent conversation.
Gambling, you say?
With a capital G.
That sounds wonderful. Liam would probably be taking part in gambling, during which time he would be creating small talk with some of the other people gambling as well, getting a feel for the room as well as who all is influential.
Well, there are a few higher up merchants, carpenters, tinkerers, that sort of thing. There's a few engineers like Doxy, but they run the gambit of if there is a craftsman of some kind that's likely to be here. You do find out that only a few dozen bearded folk will be actually staying here, so the rest will be traveling on to the city and seeking work within those walls, but not much in the way of aid is required for those staying here.
All right. Well, he would definitely be enjoying the games, seeing as he's always been more of the festive funeral type rather than mourning funeral type. So, sticking near the brighter side of the room,
It's not hard to keep to the more jovial sorts here, but the king waves to the mob in the tavern, and he says, "Good day, all. I am going to the city to speak with the overseer about how to fix our mess. Good day." Walks outside.
Hey, Whitegar, maybe tomorrow morning we should get sober and go to Fellport ourselves. Maybe take Liam with us. Introduce him to some people there. Yeah, good. I think that'd be. That's what we're going to do tomorrow morning. As his speech starting to slur more and more. He looks over once again at his daughter, who's fiddling with the knife that Doxy pulled out originally and said it was his first one he ever made. Looking at it, probably carving stuff in the table with it and such. And he sort of smiles, almost, quite wistfully at having her there. And then, of course, the darkness comes over his eyes again, remembering the others, and he throws back the mug he's drinking and sets on the table, reaches into one certain pouch and pulls out a pinch of the medicine that he had been given back on the front, and packs the rest of the pipe with tobacco and lights it up. A very sickly sweet smell of the smoke rises up from it as he draws from his pipe.
Are you passing that on?
He passes it over to Whitegar.
Fellport, you say?
Yeah. No. You got to relax. When you breathe it in, you don't you got to do it slow.
Right.
As his words slur and get a little slower.
Slower. All right. He takes a big, nice draft of it and then blows it in Doxy's face. Slower.
Doxy's daughter comes over, and she hugs her father lovingly.
Okay. Doxy hugs her back, lifts her up to his lap, holds the pipe away, and sets it down in front of sits down in this little cradle in front of Whitegar. Go ahead and finish that if you need to, my friend.
Yeah, she's just come over to cuddle.
Okay. He does. He leans back and surveys the room, just reveling in the comfort of a father and his daughter sitting there, and a slight glow of opium in the background.
Where are we going to live now, Papa?
We're going to live in the big city. I'll take you to where I've been.
It's going to be above ground, though.
It is. But that's okay. When you get there and see it, I think you'll like it. I'll introduce you to the young boys and girls who are learning what Daddy's been doing. How to shake
beat metal.
Oh, it's more than that, but
it's just pounding. He just kind of leans back and laughs.
Doxy laughs too. He says, "Don't worry about it. you remember Uncle White Guard from way back when. He's a joker. But yeah, I can take you up there and show you where I live, and I introduce you to some very special people. So, did you know that fairies live inside the forge up there? So,
She says that my auntie says that there's a king, a Domovoy king, that lives in the forge.
oh yes, yes. And he has many servants that help us and teach us things in the forge itself. Yes. And so, but you got to be careful though, because sometimes if you're rude to the domovoy, they'll burn your pigtails off.
She kind of like
So you
gasps.
gotta be nice.
Burn your pigtails off.
They'll burn your nose off, like her. At that, he laughs.
Oh my gosh.
No, but
She says, is he like the Domovoy back home?
he is a little bit, but he's got more servants here, so he's bigger.
The Domovoy back home, he's dead now. He got sick
He got
and
sick.
he died.
He looks over her head toward his sister and sort of questioning look. She told the truth.
She's smoking just like the rest of the guys. They're a big long stem pipe, and your sister's strong-willed, like I said before, but she's kind of in her circle of friends. She's one of the guys, but she's also very ladylike. No, she as soon as your daughter says no, the King Domovoy back home got sick and died, and she shoots you a look out of the corner of your eye, and just kind of like her lips get tight there for a moment, like, your daughter's not lying. But she also, in that same look, you guys have an entire conversation. No words have been said, but you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You telepathically go, what the hell? And she goes, yeah, Sirius has a heart attack. And yeah, that's
I can definitely. He looks down at his daughter and says, "Well, don't worry. The Domovoy here is he's definitely healthy. So, and he has plenty of servants and such to help us as well."
Mama said that he got sick because he had nightmares. And then other people started to have nightmares too. And they got sick. And then Mama died after the Domovoy died.
Did you have nightmares?
Only one. But that was because, well, I had a nightmare that you were talking with this scary man in a hat. And
I was a little rigid at that.
And then I woke up.
But you did. I'm looking at Doxy. We did talk to. Well, he didn't have a hat.
He looks over at White Guard and sort of makes a motion with his hand, motioning down, like, not right now. He says,
"Sorry, it's the alcohol in the drugs."
I know, it's perfect.
We did have a hat.
I said, don't worry, honey. The bad man with the hat isn't here.
She kind of lays down on your rather meaty. That's your hammer hand. That shoulder, and
he's safe. He looks scary, but he's safe.
I give her a big hug, kiss her on top of the head, and say, "You look like you're getting tired, hon."
Just like me right now. I look really ugly and scary because I'm dirty and stinky.
She just says, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
By the way, one of the bearded folk accidentally spills a bit of red ale on Liam's his fine cloak there. Splish kadunk dunk. Oh, the dice fall on the floor. Damn. Excuse me.
Oh,
Sorry,
shit.
lad.
Motherfucker.
Excuse me.
Hands are shaky from the road, you know.
Now, I understand that the situation is unfortunate, but that is no reason to be careless. Do you have any idea how much this cost?
The snow cats. I know they're rare where we come from, but here I understand they're more plentiful. It is a very expensive, pretty cloak. I am sorry. He drops a gold on the table for you. Here. That should take care of you. Have it cleaned.
You're too kind, Liam says through his teeth.
Yes.
Well, that just soiled my mood as well as my coat. He grumbles under his breath and begins to look around the room a bit.
Actually, Whitegar hears the commotion and feeling he does feel it from Doxy and his daughter at this moment. He kind of sees the commotion and he stands up and he gives this big hug to both of them. And he says, "Looks like Liam's in trouble," and he grabs his axe and he begins walking over there. And Liam can hear the gate, the labored gate of Whiteguard coming up behind him.
Don't kill anybody, Whiteguard. They're family, remember?
Of course. As he's holding the pipe, you realize now he took the pipe with him.
Turning around, Whitegar.
And he reaches and he hands you the pipe.
This
Slowly.
is the
Inhale
medicine
slowly.
pipe, by the smell of it.
Oh, it's good for you. It's what you need right now.
For some reason, I find that dubious.
Do you trust me?
Liam takes the pipe, sniffs it a bit, scowling slightly. He'll take a puff, cough, and be like, "That'll be a no from me."
I need you to make a conditioning test for me here, quick.
Please, no.
No. Roll it.
Have mercy.
No, roll it.
Conditioning. Okay. That is going to be 12.
You're muted.
Oh, excuse me. It'll that actually won't be enough here.
Damn it!
So, the Tears of the Poppy, as you have been rumored to, you've never partaken yourself, but rumor has it that foreigners, Yethites from across the sea, grow these flowers and use them in their medicine, their religious rituals, and such like. So, you feel feel a little bit funny as kind of the natural painkiller kind of sets in. You feel better, and that ugly stain on your cloak isn't nearly as bothersome as it previously was.
Strangely, though, Whitegar's face is like rippling a little bit. Probably like a shimmering.
Now that's just Wygar.
Right. That's just Whitegar.
Excuse me. I'll shut up now.
Okay, fine. I'm
Yeah, right.
not angry, per se.
Angry.
I'm just...
This isn't time for anger.
I really like this cape. It looks so
It's a
good on
beautiful
me.
cape. You're so beautiful. And I mean that in a friendly, non hitting on you sort of way.
Oh no, I perfectly understand. I am beautiful.
He actually almost falls over laughing.
It is one of my star features, in fact. Known far and wide.
You should probably stop gambling now, though.
I'd like to think I'm doing rather well. Aside from
Yeah, but
mishaps.
he's holding out his hand for the pipe.
He hands the pipe back.
The pipe, on the other hand, can, give you different feelings.
Yes, opium, wasn't it?
It was something, and his words are slurring. And you notice he is a fucking mess. He looks like he probably rolled around in the mud. He doesn't have his cloak. His leg wraps are gone.
Now, Whitegar, I've like to think I've been rather accommodating for your general outward appearance, streetwise. That is going to be. I've been accommodating for your outward appearance, but speaking as a friend, you look positively garish.
Wow, we're friends.
I mean, why else would you share a pipe of that with me?
To avoid violence, but shit happens. I am just Whitegar. I guess I'm the Natterhelm. I'm no longer the Red Winter. No longer a Red Jack. And he looks down at his cup and he's just kind of like, looks like he's trying to make a smile, but he's not really successfully doing it. And he takes a big drink.
Right.
And you would probably understand that he's an Arborian of a clan, and you knew he was a noble, and he wore a nobleman's cloak. And so he's basically saying he's been stripped of his clan.
Well, it is just quite the gloom haven, isn't it, around here? Tell you what, let's head back
I
to
feel
the
like fucking
table.
killing something, actually.
Let's hold on to that, set it aside. Let's work through it a bit. Let's go back to the table and,
Well, not you, but
okay, good.
maybe somebody else. Something else.
Preferably Thing. Thing is easier to explain.
Where are we going?
Back to Doxy.
Oh, okay. And he picks up the pipe and he takes a big hit off of it and starts walking over to Doxy. As he's holding onto the pipe and he's holding onto his axe and he's sort of making that sound as he gimps along with his leg and his axe.
Once they're near the table, Liam will sit down.
Welcome, Liam. I haven't officially introduced you, by the way. This is my daughter here, who is probably getting a bit drowsy on my lap. Laverna.
Oh, she's asleep by now.
Yeah. And, I look over at her aunt, motion that she's asleep, and so I'll be back in just a moment.
Of course.
He carries her in his arms up the stairs to the room and makes sure she's tucked into bed, covers her up, and then makes his way back down and sits down again. And he says, "It's a shame about that cloak."
It truly is. Also, I'm pretty sure I got robbed back at the table.
Robbed?
I
That
could
wasn't me.
sworn I was up, but as I parted ways, I seemed to be down.
Ah, that happens. I'll look over at, I'll lean over to my sister and say, "Hey, someone robbed him." So, be fun to find a thief, wouldn't it?
She shoots a look at Liam. She goes, "I'll find him for you."
Have fun.
Much appreciated.
Don't worry. This is entertainment for her. So, back home, she was a thief catcher.
Oh, marvelous.
Yeah. Going around, making sure merchants had the proper weights, made sure thieves and such didn't cut too many purses, that kind of thing. Yeah,
Yes.
They call a constable here, but
a definite good service to have around.
Oh yes.
Can't have any nefarious deeds going on beneath the cloak of shadow.
We need more drink.
That
He's holding
sounds
up
like
his
a good
cup.
idea.
Yeah. Doxy waves over to the barmaid and motions for another round to come over and double eights in his conditioning. So Doxy is definitely going to be holding his liquor tonight. Oh man, it's probably one of those nights where you drink and just don't get drunk. But he says, "Well, once I have my daughter taken care of back in Fellport, I'm going to need to be going across. Need to go to the desert."
The desert.
Yes, I've got business there. It's a bit it's a bit difficult to explain with the opium such running through your head, but I need to retrieve a cup for something sort of like that lord down there by the river. So closer to Thorana. Gethites and such are from. Maybe some opportunities to find exotic wares and such to bring back here and make a fortune off of, though.
Oh, yes. It's what I was thinking as soon as you mentioned the desert. Some of those exotic goods are going for a good price these days.
It's true. And the good thing is these Arborians go there ever so often for a pilgrimage. So, pilgrims always need stuff.
Of course. That and they always bring stuff from other lands.
That's true. So, so would you like to come along with us when we go?
No, I don't see why not. Trade has been a little stale around here. I probably wouldn't mind going off to greener pastures for a little bit.
And he looks over at White Guard and sort of reaches out and pops him on the arm. And he says, "And I hear that when the Arborians get down, that going on one of these pilgrimages is sort of how you get yourself back up. So it'll be good for you.
Sure.
Less mud there too.
It'll be something."
Yeah, it's true.
Now the question is, how much fish do they have?
I don't know. I hope not much. That reminds me to make sure I pack a bunch of salted pork with us before we go.
They do have fish in the desert. There's not much water, but there is fish in the water. In the
oases.
Waters. Yes.
I also heard a story that they have something like a horse, but it has lumpy back and it spits at you.
Oh, yes, I've heard of those. They're called llamas?
Possibly. I don't remember the exact word. He takes something off his pipe, but it could be llamas. So I don't know. But all I know is that they have these bumps on their back, and well, apparently I heard them say that they're like the ship in the desert. So I wonder if they could actually fish from them to get these fish that White Guard thinks live in the desert. So I don't know. I don't think fish is what you call things that live in the desert, White Guard. I'm pretty sure it's something else. I don't know. Maybe dogs or I don't know, lizards or something. But Doc at this point is sort of laying back and he's thinking to himself, this could be interesting. And he says, I wonder if this pilgrimage helps other Arborians sort of come to grips with things.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like, the quest thing you guys do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I could help. Maybe I could go do it myself and I don't know.
Oh, you're already helping an Arborian.
I know, but as on the pilgrimage, help you find Lekra. I don't know.
I already found her. Yeah. Okay. Let's find a new god.
Okay. I don't know. Oh, real quick. He announces he holds his hand up. He makes noises till everybody pays attention to him. He says, "By the way,
Mr. Carter,
the fella down by the river says we're not supposed to eat fish as much anymore."
About 24 bearded folks say here.
Or frogs.
What is your issue with fish? They're quite tasty when served with citrus.
Citrus? What's citrus?
It's a fancy fruit. It generally sells for a high price around here, making it all the more exotic. But yes, get it with fresh fruit, maybe a butter sauce.
I've had butter with it. I mean, we fried it in butter, but it was okay. Just the bones keep getting stuck in your throat.
You normally pick the bones out first.
Oh. Doc sort of thinks to himself, pick the bones out first. Huh.
It's not a turkey leg where you hold on to the bone.
Yeah. Well, you're actually the first person who's ever actually told me that.
Oddly enough, I'm not surprised.
So the Doxy sort of, starts thinking about it for a minute and take the bones out. Yeah. Okay. I'll definitely try that. So Liam, where all have you been?
Where all have I been? Oh, here and there. I've traveled to a few lands. Mostly trading with locals. Occasionally I'll deal in some more hard-to-come-by goods.
Oh.
But otherwise, I've gone several places. He's sounding somewhat evasive.
Okay. Yeah, Doxy completely does not pick up on that and being invasive at all. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, so you've been here and there and all those places. Let me see.
Oh, yes, I've crossed many borders in my time.
Yeah. Have you ever been up there among the Nagaxkith?
The Nagaxkith. I'm sure once or twice.
Yeah. Well, we had a friend of ours at one point, Gargari. I think he had to go looking for his sisters. He was with us down at the front. Heck of a horseman. Those people, I'll tell you, I've never seen the like before in my life, and I've seen several great warriors, but it was like him and the horse thought the same thing. The horse would dodge and make people miss the rider, and the rider he steered the thing with his legs. I've never seen the like. It was an amazing sight.
Yes, equestrians are quite the fascinating folk.
There's a commotion on the other side of the room as Doxy's sister bounces somebody's head off the table and then frisks him for a small bag of gold.
Oh, goodness.
Comes back over to Liam and says, "Here's your money." Ka-chunk, sits on the bag on the table. She goes and takes her seat again.
Thank you, sis.
Thank you very much. I am in your debt.
She smiles, shoots you a wink, and then goes back to drinking alone.
Oh, goodness.
I think she likes you.
Oh, goodness.
She's all doing this in a dress, too.
Oh, goodness.
She can dance and she can roast boar like nobody you've ever met.
She can gut and clean it for you, too.
That's true. So,
are you trying to marry her off? Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, she wouldn't get married. Matter of fact, she might put an axe in the back of my head if I tried to marry her off.
Yes, I'm sure she is a strong, independent beard woman.
She takes a long drag off of her pipe and she goes, "You're goddamn right, I fucking would."
See?
You're here. Liam lifts up a drink.
So Doc leans forward a little bit, looks over at Whitegar, narrows his eyes a bit. They had dreams before they got sick. Bad dreams. You've been restless at night, my friend.
You want me to think about this right now?
Well, you're right. Probably not.
Can I get an occult insight? Yeah. Did you hear me?
Yeah, go for it. I said yeah. Sorry about that. I probably didn't make it loud enough.
That was
sorry about that, guys.
Total of a 27.
Oh. You've never experienced such a thing yourself, nor heard, but it does reek of the supernatural there. Some of your thoughts rush back to any manner of foul thing that you've slain over your lifetime. Could these entities have such power over dreams, death, and illness? You don't know per se, but you would not be surprised at all if something like that were to befall the bearded folk at this time.
I share that. in a very inebriated, slurring way.
As Doxy shifts in his seat, you feel the weight of that wedding gift that you had received a long, long time ago. Your hand glides down to feel it on your hip, and then your eyes become blurry with the tears as you kind of choke back that longing.
Doxy nods his head and reaches back to his shoulder and grabs the hood that had fallen back to show his bald head and throws it over his head to hide his face. As he grips the small hammer, one not made for war, but made for making things, making fine metalwork that hangs from the loop, among other tools on his belt, which he seems to always have. This hammer seems to take a place of honor. Made of it's made of bronze, so it wouldn't be very good for making, say, Fey iron and things like that. But for working silver, gold, copper, things like that you would make for make as a gift to a fine lady.
What is the hammer's name?
The hammer's name is Sunshaper because that's what she called it, because she said it would shape the gold that catches the sun just right and reflects it back in with the same color. So it's as if when he's forging the hot gold, as if he's forging the sun's light itself.
As the night drags on, a few more hours late into the evening, the bearded folk slowly dwindle as they return to their makeshift homes or return to the city and fall to their beds respectively. The three of you are staying in your own separate rooms in the tavern. I will call for closing soliloquies in these quiet moments as you're preparing yourselves for entering the lands of Morpheus and the dream world. As the stage lights come up and they illuminate the figure, the entity known as Liam Say, as he stands at a small writing desk in his private quarters, his personal effects spread across the bed, and as he's preparing himself for an evening's rest. What do we see of Liam's heart and mind in these quiet moments?
As he's standing there, he undoes some of his fancier clothes, takes off his vest and cape, lays them on the chair and the desk. And once the vest is off and the shirt comes untucked, he pulls a fine ebon dagger out from his waistband and inspects it. Soon enough, I can find a place for you.
In Doxy's private quarters, he has a few moments as he takes a few quiet moments to himself. and our spotlight falls upon him. What do we see of Doxy's mind and heart in these quiet moments?
As Doxy is taking his belts and such off from the day that he's been, it has brought so much shock to him. By the light of a lantern or lamp, he looks up at the shield leaning against the wall, the one that his wife made for him and presented him on their wedding day, which is customary among the bearded folk. He goes over and runs his fingers along a faded etching on the inside edge of the device, and his mind translates the feeling of what it says. My love, may it guard your body and soothe your heart. Always come home to me. Grain. And his eyes go blurry again because he knows now there's no Grain to go home to. Only his daughter, who lays resting in the next room over. He takes the little hammer out, lays it next to the shield as well. Lays down, curls up, and softly starts to cry as he remembers the days and the way the sun would play up along her hair, the way that would blow in the breeze, the way she would look at him, and the laugh that she would have when she saw their daughters, playing and such, and just cry himself to sleep, thinking of his lost wife.
On the very edge of our spotlight, we see a gray cloaked figure standing on the very edge of the room. A tall, unnaturally aged Arborian in a long, gray, tattered cloak. As Doxy weeps quietly to himself, the figure murmurs, "No, not today." The figure turns and walks into the wall and vanishes. In the adjacent room, the spotlights come up and they illuminate Whitegar sitting on the bed with a clay jug of that red wine from downstairs he was able to sneak out of the kitchen. Desperation and sorrow born way to a stealthy lift as the cask of wine sits on his good knee, cradled in his hand. What do we see of Whitegar as he takes a few moments to himself?
He's looking at the cask on his good knee. It's almost as if he's fearful to look at his bad knee, because the world, his world, has been taken and upended into a myriad of somewhat of a jigsaw puzzle at this point. And his mind is very much coalescing with the alcohol and the drugs that he has smoked, the opium, because he is unsure what to feel at this moment, because his world is, everything that he has worked for is slipping away from him as he looks at the jug, and for a moment he picks it up and he finishes it off, and then he smashes it against the wall as he begins stripping down and almost ceremoniously begins wiping the mud off of himself and taking his clothes and throwing them into a pile to be cleaned. He turns and looks at his axe, and as he's staring at his axe, his vision drifts to the book. And he realizes that he has this charm, this holy effigy in his hand as he's looking at the book. And that's where the scene fades, as he's looking at that book and he's clutching this holy effigy of Malgora.
Thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Thank you for welcoming our newest party member, Steve. Take a bow here. Thanks for stopping in, everybody. We will be back on Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock to 11:30 Central Standard Time. Good night, everyone.